All right, hey everyone, and welcome to part four, the final part of Money Talks. But can you keep up, right? So, in part one, we talked about budgeting for nonprofits and social enterprises. Part two, we talked about fundraising strategies. So, you can go back and look at all these parts, right? Before you look at this one. And part three, we talked about financial reporting. And today, we're going to be talking about financial planning and forecasting, right? So, in this series, we're going to talk, in this last part of the series, we're going to discuss how to develop and implement effective financial planning and forecasting strategies for nonprofits and social enterprises. This includes identifying and analyzing financial trends, developing consistency in plans, and exploring ways to ensure long term financial sustainability. And sustainability is my word for the year, right? Because that is the goal for most businesses to get them to sustainability. So it's so much my word for the year that yesterday, was it yesterday? No, yesterday was Thursday. So Wednesday, I had my monthly webinar with Urban Awareness, and I actually came up with an acronym for
Oh,
sustainability.
come on, girl. What is it now?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm upset.
I actually came up with and I had to share it more than once because people were like, please tell us that acronym again.
Yeah, what is, we like acronyms over here.
I'll look for it while we're discussing it, and I'll say it at the end. But yeah, sustainability, impact, those are the blacks that you want to stay into, right? Because that is how you're going to achieve success in your business and elevate to the next level. So, if this is your first time catching us, which I hope it's not, and if not, if this is not your first time, or if even if this is your first time and you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe to my channel and make sure you go over and subscribe to Capacity Central, which is Ty's channel, because we keep it 100 over here. We give you all the information you need to, yeah, all the information you need to be successful at your nonprofit social enterprise or be a social entrepreneur. So I'm the owner of Impactors Management Group. I help social impact businesses to design, build, and fund their social ventures so that they can live the lifestyles they desire and while impacting their communities.
And I am Ty Boone, owner of Ty Boone Enterprises. I work mostly with nonprofit organizations, helping them to move from startup and struggle to sustainability and success. And you know what? Sustainability and success go hand in hand. And folks say, you know what? I ain't got no money. I can't sustain. So that's why we're talking about this today. Because you got that money. You have to, jumping in. Some people just jump in blindly, right? And you talked
Mhm.
about the fact that, today we're talking about planning and projecting. And
Mhm.
that's so important, and we miss it. We're like, I'm gonna start a business. Boom, I start a business, right? And it's like, but you have not planned for revenue, how you're going to generate revenue. You haven't planned on, taking a look at what your expenses look like. You haven't looked at whether or not there's even funds available if you're doing grants or you're doing some social cause, where the funding trends are. You know,
Right.
all this research and analysis that that you should do beforehand. We're missing a lot of that, right? And if
Mhm.
you are in that situation, it's okay. I'm not here to bash you. You can go back now and you can take a look, and you can get these things in order. Where are the funding trends as they relate to my mission? Not making up something new, but if
Mhm.
my mission is to do, to get to, or to help people who are less fortunate or whatever, what are the trends as it relates to that, and how can I position myself to attract funding there? What are the different ways I can diversify to bring this in? But plan it strategically, and that's
Yes.
what we're not doing. We're just kind of jumping around. So you can mix up your funding, portfolio, or you can have different ways to bring in money. We're talking about fundraising. There's products and services that you can sell. There's things that you do, but normally what I see for people who are scrambling is that there's no strategic process to it. It's kind
Mhm.
of random. So I think being able to focus on, what's where the momentum is, where the funding trends are, what your strengths are. So always doing a SWOT for everything. If I know that, hey, I'm just a bum at fundraising, I'm not that good at, corporate sponsorship, I'll focus most of my efforts to fundraising, right? Because if that's where your strengths, even though I'll still do the other stuff, I'm able to divide my effort, into where my strengths are first, and then we'll work on those other things. And I think that that's what a lot of organizations are missing. First, even identifying what your strengths are and where you should go
Right.
first.
Well, let me interject into that because I can see how that can help make funders fall into the teacher scenario, especially
Mm,
the elementary school teacher scenario,
mm,
wherein a lot of times in elementary schools, teachers like a particular subject. We all like a particular subject, right? And
mhm,
we're good at that subject, but
mm,
we're not as strong in the other subject matter areas. So
mhm.
we tend to just teach more to the one that we like, that gives us joy, and not
And
really teach the
also,
other ones. So then
mhm,
our kids end up to be deficient in that area
mhm,
because we focus so much on English or math or whatever it is that we like. Well, I don't like science. I don't really want to know about the history. And we don't really teach it in the classroom.
mhm,
And if that's why SWOT analysis is really important, like you said, doing that SWOT analysis to find out what your personal strengths are, right? And your weaknesses, right? And how those weaknesses directly reflect your threats, and your definitely it affects your threats, right? If you
mhm,
have weaknesses, it's going to turn into a threat. If in that scenario that I just gave, if you don't fix it,
mhm,
right? So in some elementary schools, I mean, even though some principals frown upon it, and I'm always talking about education, guys, because that's my background, right? So some teachers have learned how to swap it out, right? So when it's their math block, if they don't like math, that teacher will go into their class and teach math. This
mhm,
teacher who has a strength in that subject will
mhm,
come in and teach
mhm,
whatever, right? Or they'll join their classes together so that
mhm,
the kids get the type of education that they actually need to be successful.
mhm,
So in the taking that analogy back into social impact businesses, this is where it goes back to you need to hire. So
mhm,
this is why revenue generation is so important, right? We're not saying that you have to hire somebody full time, you have to hire somebody part time. It can be contractual, where that person comes in, once a month, once a week for a couple of hours and does something for you. But this is why revenue generation is super, super important. Just like this week alone, I think I've spoken to at least 10 people about grant writing. And my conversations when it comes to grant, when people reach out to me for grant writing, is always, I cannot guarantee you a grant. They're
mhm,
not guaranteed. I can guarantee you that I will write you a grant that is fundable, right? That gives you the best chance to be funded by the grantor, but I am not the one distributing the money. I don't know. Some grantors already have who they want to give their money to, and the grant process is just a formality, right?
mhm,
So I say that to say this: when we're looking at financial planning, grants is only a percentage of the bucket of monies that you expect to make in that year to create the budget. That's the first thing we talked about. You have to create the budget. That's part of financial planning, right?
mhm.
Determining all of the different sources that you're going to have money coming into the organization. We know about all the expenses. Expenses are just going to be expenses. They're going to be there, right? They're
And
not
they
going
might be
to
random,
be
and your roof might fall in, and then
they're
like,
not
oh,
going
I didn't
anywhere.
know the roof was going to cave in today, so we got to
Right, right.
pay for that.
Just like the other day, I came back from vacation and under my kitchen sink was leaking. I'm like, what? How? Then I realized there was a pipe loose, and I tried to fix it myself, but I'm no plumber, right? It
Mhm.
just wasn't working. I called the plumber out. Literally, it was just repairing the piece that needs to be screwed on. That was
Yep.
all that needed to be done. That was $400.
But that ain't what you do, right? That's
No,
what
so I had to pay him. He was like, "Are you okay with that?" I said, "Dude, I have no
I ain't getting.
recourse, but not to be okay with it because I can't do it myself.
I ain't getting under the
So
sink.
either I'm not going to use my kitchen sink at all,
Mhm,
or I'm going to have to pay you the $400 because
mhm,
that's what you do. So when you leave, I expect that I will have no leak, right? And I
mhm,
can now utilize my kitchen sink again.
mhm,
So Yeah, but planning for those rainy days, forecasting what monies can possibly come from different ventures. Like if you're not good with fundraising, and I was just telling people this in my group yesterday, know what you're good at and know what you're not good at. So if you are not a personable person, you don't like people. I don't really like people. I keep saying that, right? But like I don't. But I have learned to be a chameleon for my business. So when I am put into social settings, I can act like I like people, and I can socialize and be personable at that point in time. When I come home and I close my door, I don't even want to talk to people most of the time. Okay, I just like most of the time I'm zoomed out. Like I would prefer to get on Zoom and not have to show my face. I just want to talk to you if I have to, but I don't want to show my face because that's a whole nother level of interaction. You know what I mean? But I digress. So,
my 13-year-old asked me, Mom, do you have a multiple personality disorder? And I was like, probably.
My daughter says the same thing. She goes, if people only know that your chipper voice is a fake voice, they would. She goes, because that's not how you talk. I'm like, I know.
How you talk.
You don't know that.
Yeah, I mean,
but now you do. Now you do.
Now you do. Not everybody knows because we.
I know, right? This is not how I speak on most cases. Like my voice is usually not this high. This is my YouTube voice, right? This is my presentation
voice, right? Everybody has a YouTube voice.
Yeah, but this is not. If you heard me talk in real life, this ain't it. This is not it. No, and I'm usually not this smiley either. Okay, so but just knowing what you don't know, right? So or what you don't like to do, and making sure that you hire someone to come in and fill those gaps. So like one of the things that I have a virtual staffing agency, and one of the things that we've been getting hit up for a lot lately is email management. Because people are like, I can't keep up. I get into my email and it consumes my entire day. Like people are hitting me up saying, oh, I reached out to you 2-3 weeks ago. I haven't heard back from you. And that's because they have so much in their email, so many emails coming in that they can't keep up. So one of the things they realize is, hey, I need email management help. Right? So if that's an area, I don't like to check my emails either. That's why I have an assistant, right? Because I can go down a rabbit hole with emails. And then I came up with a formula for helping me with that, where I don't check my emails on most days until 11 o'clock. And then I check it again at 4 o'clock. So I'm not a brain surgeon. I'm not a heart surgeon, so there are no emergencies over here, right? So there are no emergencies. I can't help you if you have an emergency situation. So whatever it is that's going on with a client, I will check you at 11. I check you again at 4. So that's kind of it. But with financial planning again and forecasting, because I know we're going down a rabbit hole right now, right? So with financial planning and forecasting, it is about doing that SWOT analysis, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, and putting realistic goals together that align with your mission and your values and the potential revenue streams that you can bring into the organization.
Realistic. And you mentioned earlier, about grants, and there's just this small amount of it. People want to put those at the top. And a lot of times I think people do that because they think that grants are easy and free and readily available, and they're like, I'm just gonna get a grant and we're gonna take care of this. And then they find out that that's not the thing, and then they get frustrated and want to give up on their businesses because that's not it. On a hierarchy of funding possibilities, your grant should be at the bottom because they're subjective. You have no control over that. So once they leave your desk or your computer or whatever, they're going to la la land for somebody who probably doesn't know you to judge you. Right? And there's competition, right? You have 500 grant applications and we're going to give out 3 awards, and it doesn't really mean that your organization is a wreck. It means that, hey, we ain't got no more money, or we already know who we're going to give money to. So you want to spend some time, and again, like Tracy said, you might want to hire somebody to write grants for you or whatever, but you want to spend some time doing things that you have more control over. like your, building relationships so that you could get sponsorships and that you could fundraise, developing products and services that you could sell and you can position, because those things are more in your control.
Right.
I
And
used
let's
to.
just reiterate for those people who don't understand that being a nonprofit does not mean that you can't generate income. That is not true. Whoever told you guys that lie,
they lie.
Shame on them for telling you
They're
that.
telling stories, right? They're not storytelling. You have storytelling. We have storytelling in social impact business, and we have telling stories. So storytelling is
that's a big fable
of your impact. Telling stories is a lie. So it's two different things. Storytelling, telling stories. Yeah, that's a lie. And I think that's where people are lost, because they're thinking that the only thing they could do is get a grant.
Get a grant.
They sulk because they're not getting grant funded. Not even understanding that funders want to see diverse revenue streams. Funders want to see that you know how to make money and that you know how to take care of your programs and services, even if they weren't supporting you. Because what happens when their grant is gone? Do you fire your folks? Do you not have the program anymore? So they want to know that you are doing some things that's gonna move sustain your organization with or without.
Yeah. And that's it for me. I don't have anything else I want to talk about. That's it.
No, that is
okay. If you guys have any questions, please make sure to drop them in the comment box below. Go on over and like Ty's YouTube page. It's Capacity Central. She does great interviews over there with people who have gotten millions and millions of dollars for their organizations, and you can get some great tips from that. So until next time, guys, bye.